What's up, everybody? Welcome back into the Play the Fight Song College Football Show. Another bowl game preview, and it features one of our premium teams, our fan perspective teams, the Iowa Hawkeyes JP squad in action against Missouri in Nashville, Tennessee, the Trans Perfect Music City Bowl. This one is on December 30th, 2:30 Eastern on ESPN. Let's break this one down from the top because these two teams have a little bit of hatred. We're recording this on December 22nd, which is a Sunday, and we just learned that Bo Pribula, the transfer from Penn State, chose Mizzou over Iowa. So maybe this is the Bo Pribula Bowl now. JP, how we feeling about that? And then tell us about this matchup right after Jake tells us about the notable opt-outs for these two teams. There are some names that are worth mentioning. Reminder, this is the 22nd, so this is subject to change, but it's very close to if you're listening to this now. We only got 6 days to it. But Jake, tell us about those big names.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think it just starts with the two most talented players on both of their offenses. With Iowa, Caleb Johnson, the running back. I mean, no more explanation needed there. He's heading the NFL. And then for Missouri, Luther Burden is also heading to the NFL as a projected. Recently, I've seen a top 15 pick. He's probably one of the best receivers in the draft next year. So unfortunately, not going to get either of these guys. I think they would make this a ton of fun, but there's still a lot of factors to behold. And Jordan, I think you can probably get us started on what to just expect for Iowa, or if there's any other names you think is worth noting.
Yeah, looking at this one, like you're missing Caleb Johnson, so it's going to be Kamari Moulton. It's going to be just a hodgepodge. Everybody's going to get a carry here. I believe they'll give Washington some carries as well. And the difference is who plays quarterback, right? It's going to be Sullivan, from my understanding, everything that came out of Kirk's press conference this week. And that's good. I think that's good because he's going to be here next season. If he doesn't hit the portal post bowl game, which is completely possible just based on the, what the world we live in college football, right? But missing the last couple of games due to an ankle injury. He's healthy now. He's moving around just fine. That's coming from the head man himself. And I think the interesting point here is that Iowa gets a shot at a good defense with the guy that probably should have started all 12 games for him, right? Now, no Caleb Johnson obviously hurts a ton because the guy just makes a ridiculous amount of plays, and his ability to break tackles and make things happen is uncanny. But the great point about this is that I'm pumped for this because I want to watch the younger running backs in this scheme, right? They're all young enough. They're going to have multiple years in this system. In Washington and Jazz Patterson, and Kamari Moulton, these are guys that are sophomores or freshmen. They're going to be in the system multiple years. And so to see how they work things and their ability to find a hole against a good defensive front for Missouri, who's kind of shown that they can play with anybody in some spots. So I'm really excited to see that. And I'm excited to get a healthy Brendan Sullivan back. Obviously, when you look at this, like Missouri has great receivers. Iowa hasn't had great receivers this year. Vanderzee is apparently going to play for the first time in a long time. He dealt with injuries the majority of the year. And can Iowa, on the defensive side, not give up the big pass plays? Now, no Luther Burden. I believe Theo Weiss is playing in this one. Brady Cook, don't make mistakes, and you're going to have a shot to beat this Iowa team deep, as teams have throughout the year. And it kind of, as the year went on, they played less teams that could beat them deep, and they slowed that issue down. But here comes a situation where it is possible. So I'm excited to see this Iowa defense in a spot without their top corner, Jamari Harris, have to go up against a good receiving core and a pretty good offensive line for Missouri. I'm not going to say it's an elite group. I think they're fine. But Iowa struggled to get after the passer at times. Here's a chance to really bow up because we're getting guys back that are saying they're going to be back. Missouri's a good football team. It's a good matchup for Iowa to really test out where they're at for next year. And I think Missouri's happy to get this one. Like, they're going to turn the page off the Brady Cook era, where it kind of seemed like they were in on it. And then as the year went, this wasn't quite the same year as 2022 or as 23, sorry. And it kind of out on it. The Pribula thing is obviously, not great for Iowa because that was high priority for Lester. That was who he wanted. Sounded like Mendoza from Cal was the guy Mizzou wanted. Ain't gonna matter. They end up with Pribula. I think here is where Missouri just kind of empties it. Honestly, I don't think Drink wants to lose this one. And I know Ferentz doesn't want to lose bowl games. He calls them bowl championships, for goodness sake. This is one Drink wants because it's a Big Ten team who kind of lives in the same identity as Missouri at times. And they're very close. Like, this is a border battle. Like, we're right here. I think you can get to Como from Iowa City in 4 hours or so. 3 hours, like border Got a little bit of a history in some bowl games. You look back at the Inside Bowl when Missouri was really good. Iowa had a great year in 2009 and 10 as well. I think it's going to be a ton of fun to watch. I can't imagine it's high scoring, but I am excited to see, the opportunity for Missouri to go up against a good defense and this Iowa team to be really put up against a good passing attack. I'm not as worried about Missouri finding the run game as I am the pass game in this situation. I think Missouri might feel the same way.
Reminder, JP is an Iowa fan, so there is a bit of a skewed view when it comes to a lot of fun to watch. Some people, if you're looking for high-scoring action, you're not going to find that in a lot of time with Iowa or Big Ten Midwest football in general. This one is going to be a good one, though. I'm excited to watch it and see what this team does. I had the distinct dishonor of watching Iowa beat Nebraska to end the season. That was with Jackson Stratton behind the helm. Iowa is a team that I feel like every time you talk about them, you're having a quarterback conversation of who's playing, what they've been doing throughout the season, because that's usually what's been killing them over the past 5 to 6 years, to having that next step of being a Big Ten champion, maybe competing for a college football playoff bid. But I feel like Brandon Sullivan's a good starter point for that offense to kind of flip things around. What he can do with his legs, giving that offense another look that they haven't had with McNamara, Petrus, and even Stratton in the past, or definitely not Deacon Hill, is such a big difference for that team, especially offensively. I think what it comes down to for Iowa on the offense side of the ball is what's hurt them in this exact bowl game in the past. Turnovers when they had Deacon Hill against the Tennessee defense. If Sullivan can value the football and play Iowa football to where they just don't beat themselves, you got to like Iowa in this spot because you're getting a lot of the big names on the defensive side of the ball. Unanimous All-American for the second time in Jay Higgins, who's well-deserving so, led the FBS in tackles last year. I assume he was up there again this year. One of the best defensive players all time at Iowa, and one of the best defenses in college football under Phil Parker, who's one of them, probably the best, probably the best defensive coordinator year after year. It's hard to say that out loud wearing the red I am, but he is, and it's just an elite group. On the offensive side, we already mentioned for Mizzou, you lose Luther Burden, but Brady Cook is a guy who I don't know if there's a coach out there in college football that values his quarterback more as a player in person than Drinkwitz does to Cook. I mean, I think he might force Brady Cook to marry one of his daughters, and he's got a ton of experience on this Missouri scheme and system. So I like Missouri to score more points than you would expect against such an elite defense like Iowa. But I think what we've seen from Iowa in the past defensively is this group has a little bit less. I don't know if it's, a scheme issue, or maybe you're just missing Cooper DeJean on the back end. You're a little bit younger or not as much star-studded on the back end. But I do think Missouri will score. I think Iowa will just do enough and not beat themselves with a running quarterback, because we've seen an Iowa offense against a Wisconsin defense put up 40 points. And that's not something we talk about often with the Hawkeyes. But I think they do that in this game. It's going to be middle tier scoring, not high scoring, not low scoring like we would expect an Iowa team to be. But I like the Hawkeyes to take advantage, win this one in Nashville. I think it's going to be almost a home game for Iowa, to be honest with you. I think they're going to travel super well to this one. What do you think, Jake?
I think this matchup it's interesting, right? Like, if you're Hawkeye fans, I think you can be happy and relieved that you're not going to be seeing Nico Amaliava this year in a bowl game. You're going to, quite honestly, be seeing somebody who's more so the opposite of Nico, a pocket passer. Brady Cook really won't kill you with his legs. So I think the Iowa defense is going to have success in this one. But I think the matchup for me that will determine this game, it starts with the Missouri defense versus that Iowa offense. I'm really intrigued to see what Iowa has to throw at Missouri without Caleb Johnson, who quite literally won them the football game against Nebraska with one of the best runs in all of college football this season. So now you don't have your big playmaker in Caleb Johnson. Where do you look for other guys to really kind of be the difference maker in this bowl game? But I will say this Missouri defense it's no slouch. Like, we've seen Iowa the last couple of years against Tennessee, Kentucky, some like above average SEC defenses have just really gotten after this Hawkeye team. And Zion Young, and I forget the other, Johnny Walker was the other defensive end for Missouri. Like, it's a decent little pass rush. This game reminds me, like, let's go back to Missouri's bowl game last year against Ohio State. What was that? 10-3, 7-3.
That was the Lincoln Kienholz game.
It was. So, like, Missouri's capable of getting into a rock fight, low scoring with an Iowa team who wants to play slower. I think Missouri is up for that task. That when people think Missouri, they think the receivers, the really good receivers, they think this kind of scoring offense, and that's not necessarily the case. And I think they're ready for this Iowa team.
All right, there it is. Let's go roundtable style, break this one down score prediction wise. Who's going to win the game? Who's going to cover as Missouri stands today as a 3-point favorite over the Hawkeyes? And who's going to be the difference maker in this one? I'm going to go back down to Jake first. We'll go JP last because he hasn't done his fan perspective yet. In case those aren't released yet, I don't want to give away too much. So check that out. But Jake, give us your score prediction. Who wins, who covers, who's the difference maker?
Yeah, we talked about difference makers, and it's going to have to be Brendan Sullivan if Iowa wants to win this game. The last few years against these SEC teams that Iowa has seen, Petrus, Deacon Hill, these defenses have really gotten after those quarterbacks. So can Sullivan do things with his legs that gives Iowa a chance to win? I still like Missouri winning this, and I think it wouldn't be surprising to me if I see a 16-10 kind of score, and Missouri just gets this one ugly. And honestly, maybe they even score one touchdown and a few field goals, and it's still good enough to win them this game.
All right. That's a fair place to put it. I like Iowa to win this game as the underdog. I really do, just because of that defense and the experience they have on it. They're losing a lot of pieces going into next year, and I really do think they're going to want to go out with a dominant performance. And I think they can do so while Missouri's missing the weapons they are in Luther Burden. And I like the Hawkeyes to cover this one, win the game outright. I think it's going to be middle tier scoring. I think we're going to get a above average Iowa offense performance based off what they've done the last few years, but pretty on average for this year. I think they're going to win this one 24-17. That's an upset. I'll finally pick an underdog, and fortunately, I'm just picking a rival. I think the difference maker is going to be Kamari Moulton. I think when you look at the beginning of the season, not a lot of people know this, but Moulton was the quote unquote starter. Yes, they split time with Caleb Johnson, but he just took off and was going for 150 a game. So he got the back seat, still goes over 300 yards on the season, 5 scores. I think he'll get a couple on this matchup on their way to a win in the Music City Bowl because Kirk Ferentz values him so much. So I like the Hawkeyes. What do you think, JP?
Yeah, this is going to be low scoring. I was thinking 17-13 Hawks here. One thing of note is that like those bowl games the last couple of years, right? It's been a quarterback that quite literally is not at the University of Iowa. Like those Kentucky bowl games, the Tennessee one as well. The difference in that is that the scheme's different, right? It's a new OC, and how did they now approach bowl games? Because it had been, Ferentz runs this a certain way. You go into bowl games, you get, do the same boring stuff. They get a little more unique. I'm interested to see how Lester goes about this, because you have to be ready to go against a good Missouri team. And I think Drink's ready to go. Like, I really do think this Missouri team is going to be really amped up to play this one for a couple of reasons. So I'll take Iowa 17-13. Obviously, I'll never pick against them. But I think this one's just real low scoring and ugly. And I'm going to take Sebastian Castro, a little bit of a Micah Hyde situation in him. Get a late pick off Brady Cook. Maybe take it back to the barn to win this one too. That's just one of those games, and that's the last time Iowa played Missouri in a bowl game. The similar thing happened. And so one of these defensive seniors has to make a big play here in this game, because like Park said, they're all leaving. It's a big turnover coming next year for 25 in the Hawks. So if we're going to win this game, it's going to come from one of those senior leaders on the defense.
All right. That's a fair place to put it. An Iowa defensive touchdown to give him the advantage. I've seen that one too many times in my day. So I like where you put that one. All right. That is the Perfect Music City Bowl. We appreciate you being here. Check out shopnorivals.com today, our great partner. Iowa, you have hats live on there right now. I do not know off the top of my head if Missouri's on there.
I believe so.
I'm going to say yes. I think they did. I kind of remember making the ad for it. But shopnorivals.com today. Use the code PTFS at checkout on all your premium collegiate headwear. Find the Hawks, find Mizzou. We'll cover the shipping. Get yourself a little after Christmas gift with your extra dough.
Absolutely.
Check them out today. Great partners. Shout out, no rivals. All right, with that, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. If you're an Iowa fan, you're in a perfect spot because we're going to cover you more than the majority of the country. But if you're a Missouri fan, we cover all of college football. If you like this video, hit the subscribe button, then we love you. And we love you viewing this video and appreciate you being here. We'll see you next time. Hope you had a great Christmas. Hope you have a fun bowl season. Jake, take us away.
Happy New Year. Let's play it.